Hey guys, I'm Mitchell. I am a gratefully recovering addict and alcoholic, and I'm glad to be here.
My name is Anna. I am a wife of an addict in recovery, and I am recovering myself from codependency. Mitchell and I wanted to come on tonight because we're going to start talking about different topics. We're hoping to God we're not going to wake up our daughter. At least I'm hoping to God we're not going to wake up our daughter.
So if we're a little quieter, that's why.
Not much, though. We all know I'm loud. So we wanted to come on today, and we wanted to talk about triggers. This is a specific topic that keeps coming up. And so we wanted to express what triggers are, what they look like on each side, whether it's the addict, whether it's the codependent, the family member. We want to show you what that looks like and ways that you can work through them. So I'm going to let you actually go first, Mitchell, because when we think about triggers, it generally really is more geared towards the addict. I didn't even know it was family-wise. So what do triggers look like for you?
I think there's a couple different ways I categorize triggers. I think I have triggers for use or triggers that trigger me into thinking about drugs and alcohol. I have triggers that kind of make me think of the past and some of the things I've done, wreckage-wise and like bad decision-wise. And I also have behavioral triggers. I think that might put me in a depressive or sad state. I think kind of, to be honest with you, the drugs and alcohol triggers are the easiest now. I think that they are, things that remind me of use, or seeing billboards with alcohol on them, seeing something on social media about friends I used to hang out with and use with. Sometimes they can be places I used, places I picked up. It could be, paraphernalia, something like that, you know what I mean? Just sitting in a car at night and the light hitting a certain way. Can be a trigger to where I was using it in the car late at night or something like that, or sitting around the side of a gas station could remind me of using drugs and alcohol. And I think that the triggers of the past are kind of more people, places, and things. They trigger me into thoughts of the past, right? And it's just memories. And I think everybody can relate to that when, you smell of a campfire, a song comes on the radio, maybe the sound of, insects outside in the summer remind you of summertime as a kid, you know what I mean? So these are good memories, but a lot of those coming from addiction or, for family or me, I think, trigger me into that old behavior of use. And then if I jump on that thought process, I think I have triggers of the drug triggers. You know what I mean? Because I start thinking about that stuff. And then behavioral triggers, I would have to say, are my family. They're people, places, things too. But so say like an argument between my family, or maybe I start yelling, or I'm frustrated, or I'm angry. Those are things that trigger me into kind of depression and make me think of, what am I doing wrong? It makes me feel like I am in active addiction. And I don't like the behavioral triggers the most. I think those are the ones that
Bother you the most?
Those are the ones that bother me the most. I have tools for most of the other ones. Because, especially the drugs, like seeing a billboard after a long day of work, wanting a drink, late at night, if I'm energized, I feel like, I'm like, woo, and I feel like I'm, my DOC was cocaine, and it gets me into that reminiscing kind of deal, you know what I mean?
When you were in addiction, so before recovery, were you even aware of what your triggers were? Was that even a word that was on your radar? Did you know what triggered you, or was that something that you really found out in recovery and became aware and mindful of I didn't even know this was was a trigger for me?
Yeah, no, I don't. I think until you define what the issue is, you never look for the trigger, right? An alarm clock's the trigger to get up, right? Your key is the trigger to start your car. You have to drive to work is the trigger to work. So I think before you realize that you're looking at it as a certain behavior, such as drugs and alcohol, you don't even think to look at the triggers. It's just, this is the behaviors, this is what happens. It's just a chain of events that leads to something. So I think an easy way to figure out what your triggers are is figure out what precedes the behavior you're looking at.
That's what I wanted to ask you, because what I do find interesting is that we really don't, like, recovery is all about awareness. That's what I really think is. Recovery is all about awareness. And that's why I want to ask you that question is, like, when you were in the midst of the addiction, was there ever that haha, and you just let people know on here, if there is anybody that's an addict trying to seek recovery, is like what you said, no, I didn't, in the way that you went is after the action happens, what led up to it? What was the before? Was there something that triggered you into that thought or want to use? Because do you think, Mitchell, that knowing your triggers is a lot of the battle of, like, you need to know your triggers to help you work through addiction and to get recovery?
Yeah, I'm for sure. If you want to get recovery or change any behavior,
Yeah,
I think you need to know the triggers if you're trying to, change or manipulate a outcome.
yeah,
But I think that if you're not willing to change and don't want to change anything, there's no point in learning a trigger.
yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah.
Like, I feel like, if you're aware and you're starting to work on things, then you're ready to change some things because you're aware of it. You know what I mean? I think there's a lot of people, and I was saying this the other day to somebody else, that for a long time I thought that the worst thing that could happen to me was I'd die, end up in jail the rest of my life. You'd leave me, all these things, like, I think these big things. But honestly, what I was telling them, the worst thing that could have happened to me is that you would have put up with the addict, and I never would have changed. I would have lived a life of use and never known any better. And I never would have had potential to, like, be great. You know what I mean? That would have been way worse than a death, way worse than you leaving. It would have been a mediocre life of a behavior that inhibited my potential. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I like the way that you said that, though, too, because the thing is we always think about,
You wouldn't be alive.
yeah, how we like to think about, sometimes the family's like, oh, well, is that our responsibility then? I think the thing is if we really think about it, how the addict treats us and the behaviors is, it's our responsibility to stand up for ourselves.
Yeah, for sure.
And then that ripple effects at times to our loved one. Because if we look at that instance, when the addict was doing those things, and if I would just allow them to happen, honest to God, it has nothing to do with Mitchell. It has everything to do with me, of I'm allowing something like that to happen in my life. So family members on here, like, you need to realize something is that you are doing it for your loved one, but you ultimately are really doing it for you. And you just heard Mitchell say that if I put up with it, his family put up with it, his friends put up with it, he would not be here in recovery. He would be living a worser fate than death or jail or anything like that.
And I don't even think it has anything to do. I was just saying, like, I don't think it has anything to do with other people holding anything, because, like, you could have left, my parents could have left, but if there wasn't enough stuff in my face and I just kept living that addiction, you know what I mean, and not being mindful of, I want something better, and I could have been happy with just failed relationship after failed relationship after failed relationship, but that wasn't in the stars for me. That wasn't that wasn't what I was meant to do. You know what I mean? So I think the devil would have won if I would have been happy being an addict. If I would have been happy being alone and failed relationships and never contemplated change and sticking up for myself and doing these things. And I think that's the same for everybody on here. Like, you're destined for great things. Like, be mindful, learn your triggers, what you deserve, who you are, because there's nothing worse than wasting our potential stuck in the same situation. You know what I mean? Like,
oh, I think you and I are
hard.
saying the same
exactly
same exact thing.
Things are so hard to change and to be aware of these things, but, like, think of the greatness that I never would have thought we'd be where we are at.
No, I was just telling someone else that today. I never. No offense, I love you to death, but never.
I didn't know I had this confidence in me. I didn't know I could be this person. Like, I feel the same.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like Mitchell. Like,
Yeah.
I guess I could say that's the same, but like, totally different outlook.
Yeah. How do you feel like you work through your triggers? What were there specific things that you did in rehab? Were there activities, or was just questions were asked to you?
Oh man, I think, a lot of things. Saying it out loud, taking the power away. I leaned on my support heavily the first couple years. Aftercare, talked to my sponsor, my sponsee, support groups, meetings, family, took the power away of a lot of stuff.
So it took
Just speak it out loud, talk about it, say, hey, admit to it, be honest with myself, have integrity, make a non-negotiable agreement with myself that I am always going to tell the truth, not for anybody else, but for myself, and because I lived for 30 some years lying.
So those are the skills and tools you used. What brought like that initial awareness? Was it someone just asking a question and going, "Hey Mitchell, let's see what triggers you," or were there other questions asked? Because I'm just curious. Because I was
Treatment.
Treatment.
You do triggers. I mean, that's like treatment 101. They put you in there and they say what triggers you. What are the triggers to use? Because when we first go in there, we have no idea that there's something that triggers us to use. You know what I mean? It's just we use because it's fun. Oh, is it really fun anymore? Well, I've had a lot of stuff. Well, you got to point out all the bad stuff. Oh, this person's leaving. You've wrecked your cars. You've got DUIs. You can't hold down a job. You're going through money like this. Oh, I see. It's probably not the best behavior. So what triggers you to use? Stress, work, friends, girlfriend, wife, parents, traffic.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's like, okay, you dig a little deeper on that. You're mindful of things. And then once you start realizing that there's a better way and you get recovery a little bit, I think that's, in my eyes, when I relapsed a couple times, I really got to see what my hardcore triggers were, because I stopped a lot of the old behaviors. So I wasn't on autopilot, and then I could really see what led me to use. Then I'd relapse, and then I'd be able to look at that through a magnifying glass again, find out those triggers, tweak those a little bit more. And by the time I got out this time, doing 3 stints in treatment, aftercare, IOP, working on triggers for about 18 months to 2 years.
Yeah.
And having some bad relapses in there, like, I knew what triggered me. And I had a support group to reach out to, and then I used my tools, like I just said.
So what do you think, because I heard you say that in your speeches, what do you think your hardest triggers are? And I know you said behavioral, but are there specific ones that you can express? Like, what do you think triggers you the most?
Oh, God, yeah, family. Arguing, I think family using and arguing with my family. It's tough. It puts me right back in the addiction. It gets me boiling. So I guess things with my family, because they're the closest and we've been together the most, 40 years now. And when something happens and it stirs up anger in me, so I think family, and then the secondary emotion for me is anger. And anger, whenever anger comes in and takes over me, it is one of my biggest triggers, because I was angry for a long time in my life. So being in that anger puts me back into depression, sadness, feels like I'm high, like I'm manipulating people, like I'm the addict looking out, like it feels like all the same sensations that are happening in my body. So when I'm looking out through my eyes, it feels like I'm the addict almost, you know what I mean? And it's terrible.
That's kind of interesting. So does anger trigger you first to want to use, or does anger actually trigger you to thought process of believing you're the addict again?
Yeah, I don't want to use when I have anger, but it triggers me into worse than use, which I think,
which could trigger you there.
Which could trigger me to use.
Okay.
If I lived in anger long enough, yeah, I'd use 100%. But I think it's the feeling.
Yeah.
I think it's the feeling. See, wanting to use a substance to me is just a thought, right? And I'm not my thoughts. But a feeling, when you're overrun by a feeling, it's harder. for me.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I agree with you.
It's
100%.
way harder. When you're stuck in an anger thing, it's like way hard to get out of that. It's way hard. You have tunnel vision and that's all you see, right? You know, when I have a thought, like meditation's helped with the thoughts so much. You know, just grounding techniques or whatever. If it's a thought, I can say it's just a thought, so I want to use. So I'm thinking about this drug. I was scraping paint off of a door I just painted downstairs. You know what I mean? And I have a razor blade in my hand, and the door's painted white, and I'm scraping it off, and I'm like, well, if this isn't a trigger, you know what I mean? But it's just a funny thing to me because there's all these white things flying around, and there's a razor blade in my hand. It wasn't really a trigger because I didn't want to use, but I'm just sitting here thinking, this is kind of comical.
Yeah.
Here's an ex-coke addict scraping white stuff off a freaking window with a razor blade.
Yeah.
But that's not a big deal for me.
Would that have triggered you, though, in the past, Mitchell? Like, really early recovery? Think about, like, maybe your first time out of Alpine, that 6 months. If you were doing that same activity, would it have triggered you more?
Yeah. Because, for one, I would have been nervous because I was downstairs alone.
Yep.
You know what I mean? I think we've worked enough on our recovery to
But
where I
you're
can be
downstairs alone right now.
I know, but I'm saying early on we didn't grow together.
Yeah.
I didn't have the trust in you. So having trust and have done all these things makes me less triggered when I'm downstairs by myself, when triggers do happen, because I know that I'm trusted, you're trusted, my behaviors.
So does it help you actually realize it's just a thought and it has no more power when other people around you do start to trust and you feel like you can open up to your support system?
Yeah.
Okay.
If I feel like I'm downstairs hiding, like in early recovery, like
Yes.
you remember, I think it was even after like at like 7 months in recovery this time, we went on a family vacation, and like when I would go in the house by myself, I instantly felt that shame and guilt because I figured everybody else outside was thinking either I was stealing their money, stealing alcohol, stealing pills, or whatnot, but no one was thinking that.
No.
But when I'm thinking that, I'm more likely to let a trigger run wild in my brain because I'm thinking, oh, well, they're thinking I'm doing this.
So self-talk.
I talk myself into it, yeah, probably.
Okay, and then if we have any addicts on here, whether still in active use, wanting recovery, I would like you to express, because this is something that's been coming up as well. If someone has a thought of using or actually has a craving of using, what could you tell them for support?
I would say just acknowledge it. You can acknowledge it. You can say, hey, I'm craving this substance. It's okay.
To somebody else? The way that you express
Not even to someone else yet. This is just right off the bat. You're having a craving. It's okay. You're having a craving. That's it. You know what I mean? It's like a memory. Like when you're having a memory of like a camp as a kid, right? You have a memory of a camp. You don't go visit that camp. You know what I mean? So if you're having a craving, you just say, okay, I'm having a craving. You kind of play it out, play the tape through.
What's the tape through mean?
I'm not going to use. It's just, this is what would happen if I did use. I'd do this, and I'd have to lie, and then my loved one's going to know, and then all this stuff. And so you can play the tape through, which is going to lead to that logic and reasoning. You can say it out loud, even to no one first. I'm having a craving for such and such substance. Then you can say it's okay. Doesn't mean I have to use. It's just a thought. Then I'm going to reach out to my friend, my support. I'm going to reach out and say, man, just got off work, used to drink every day after work, saw a billboard with an icy cold beer on it, sweat running down the side of it, it's 90 degrees outside, I felt like using. Well, that's understandable. You know what I mean? There's alcohol billboards all over the place. Doesn't mean you have to use. You talk to them, they talk you down. By the time, you know, if you can get that thought away and start thinking about logic and reasoning things for 5, 10, 15 seconds, it already takes the power away from that thought. And then do the same thing again next time it happens.
When it happened to you, maybe earlier on, did you feel shame and guilt? Did you feel it once in a while, though? Or just think that you were doing something wrong because of thinking about it or craving something?
I didn't think I was doing something wrong. I didn't like them. I thought I should be farther along in my recovery, that like I didn't have them, but you're going to have. That's what I've learned this time in recovery. Honestly, I probably have more cravings being 3 years than being 6 months.
Yeah.
Because 6 months you're really working. You're really working your butt off in recovery. Once you start putting life back together, I have tons of cravings, but they're so they dissolve so fast because, like I said, they're just a memory. It's just a memory. Like I can remember when I smell fall in the air for the first time. Like it reminds me of a lot of the times with my friends, like in grade school or middle school. But I don't go visit my hometown. I don't like drop everything and go visit my hometown and go hang out with all my friends in the park. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it's like, I just know that. I just know that, oh, this is just a memory of use. And that's all it is. I'm not going to go seek this out.
No, I really wanted you to say that because I think what I do hear a lot of the times with addicts in recovery is there's a lot of shame and guilt. And you put up a really good point. And they say, I thought I should be further along. And hearing it from you, understand the shame and guilt. It's okay to feel that, but you don't really have to feel that because you're not doing anything wrong. And that you're going to have them. It's okay. And that you're still as far as you think. They're just going to occur. It doesn't mean you're taking steps back in your recovery.
Yes.
Okay.
100%.
Cool. I wanted to just look real quick just because I thought I saw, did she cry?
No.
Okay, good.
She's still faith down.
We can all relate to that, Mitchell, and I'm not an addict, but I then do breathing exercises. Breathing exercises really work. I thought I saw one person. Here we go. Reminds me of my ex. I'm the only one who held boundaries. Wasn't enough. He didn't want to change, was willing to let me. I can't push C more. It's not. Oh, there we go.
Me and the 3 kids go.
Yeah.
I always say the devil won't.
One, it felt like a tug of war with the devil. You're absolutely right. It definitely does feel like that. So anyone's on here. So that is what triggers look like for someone who suffers from addiction. And now we'll talk about what triggers look like for the families. And if anyone's out there, if you're anything like me, I didn't even know that there were triggers for the family. I had no idea. When I hear the word trigger, I thought of addiction. You get triggered to use. Well, when I learned about codependency, I learned that we have our own triggers. And so I'm going to tell family members out there right now, if this is the first time you're thinking that, seeing that, definitely listen in, okay? Because this is going to be part of your recovery. This is going to be part of your healing and your growth. Just as Mitchell said in the beginning, one of his skills and tools to work through those triggers was taking power away from them, saying them out loud, writing them down, figuring out first what they even are, and then talking to his support. I'll tell you right now what triggers look like for me in the past. 100%, one big one, and Mitchell and I've talked about this, is that if I heard the garage door shut, that triggered me. What it triggered me was, where is he going? And of course, where is he going led to, is he using? I did not like when Mitchell was in the bathroom for a long time. That was another trigger. I didn't like when Mitchell went downstairs. Another trigger. When I woke up in the middle of the night, turned over, and Mitchell was gone. That's another trigger. There were triggers of actually Mitchell just tired. Mitchell's eyes, he would just kind of not really nod out, but he would his eyes would close. Red eyes, that triggered me. A lot of people have said this, even snoring triggered me, because when Mitchell would drink a lot, he would snore. Another big trigger, may sound weird, was when I came home and Mitchell was giving himself a haircut, or he told me he was going to give himself a haircut. Because for me, I started to recognize that Mitchell giving himself a haircut usually followed after Mitchell used or Mitchell wanted to feel better. So it was like that, try to get happy high again, almost kind of like, let's do it this time. Yeah, let's do it this time. I don't even know if I've ever actually told you this, is like when you used to put on, it was towards the end though, you used to put on all your necklaces. Like that bothered me. And I think it's because of, I didn't realize that, but that's like you're saying, kind of reinvent yourself, change it up. That was another trigger for me. I will tell you that there's a lot more, but I just wanted to use those, that if anyone's out there, those are triggers. That triggers you into starting to go down the line of no longer thinking about yourself, just about the addict and just about addiction. I know that triggers that used to trigger me back then don't do it as much now. Like I can have Mitchell falling asleep in front of me. I'm not going to lie. That's one that does trigger me a bit more.
For sure.
I'll look at him, but then what I do is called look for clusters. That's something that Laura taught me, is look for more than one sign. That would mean, is there lying? Is there sleeping late? Is there stealing? Is there manipulation, gaslighting? All these other, yeah, if there's a bunch, there's none. And so I know Mitchell's just falling asleep. I actually laughed the other night when there was snoring. I laughed because, and honestly, that was really, I stop for a minute and I'm really mindful of it, that was amazing that I actually could laugh. And the reason why I laughed is because I realized it didn't bother me anymore. So it was almost kind of like that happy laugh type of deal. I know that another trigger was knowing Mitchell was lying. That was a big one for me, for sure. And the way I found out about these guys was exactly what I'm doing right now. Someone talked to me about what triggers were, what they looked like, and then I tried starting to figure out what they were. I can tell you another way is kind of like how Mitchell expressed, and I love that he said that, is that if you don't know what your trigger is, if you feel anxiety, if you feel sad, if you feel angry, if you feel depression, stop for a moment. Okay? If you feel uncomfortable, stop. And then ask yourself, why do I have anxiety right now? Why do I feel he's using or she's using right now? Why am I feeling sad? Why am I feeling not heard? Then go to the one before it, like Mitchell said, you'll figure out what your trigger is, okay? So if all of a sudden, this is a way that I could kind of express it and explain it this way, is I'm sitting and watching TV, I'm fine, all of a sudden have instant anxiety. Take a pause, Anna. What just happened? Mitchell just left and went out the garage door. That's my trigger. I was fine before, had anxiety, took a pause. Remember what happened? I heard the garage door shut. That's my trigger. That is my trigger to feeling anxious. Another one could be, like Mitchell said, like behavioral ones. And another one could be is, I'll be honest with you guys, is I think Mitchell, you might have done a We Are way back then. We visited Washington. Mitchell was sleeping in the bedroom. It was when we were selling our house. We were packing everything up. I was out in the living room. I was sitting there. And all of a sudden, I really can't describe this as much, but it was like my body left the time I was in there and got taken straight back to when I was in the addiction. Oh yeah, right back when I was in the addiction. I felt like I couldn't move. I felt frozen. I felt like I wanted to go get Mitchell, but I was also terrified that I'd go into that bedroom and get the addict, which happened 1,000 times before. And I recognize now what happened is I was watching TV, and like how Mitchell said, like, you know how you said the light by a gas station just came in good?
Yep.
Something about being in that big room again.
Yep.
All by myself, dark, with just the light up on the fan and the glow of the TV. And I realized we were back there. And remember, like, one of my biggest ones is you actually had to look at me sometimes and go, Anna, we're not staying here.
Yep.
We're just coming here.
Yep.
I think something came over me and was like, I'm stuck again.
Yep.
I'm stuck. I can't go anywhere. Or we're here.
Yep.
And I will tell you that's a trigger, okay? That was just the lighting. That was also, though, what it was me thinking about, again, the addiction, okay? That was my trigger. I can tell you that was actually a turning point for Mitchell and I. The reason why was because some reason Mitchell actually came out of the bedroom and I was crying and he said, Anna, what's wrong? And I first didn't even want to look in his eyes. That I think Mitchell knows when I'm triggered because I stopped looking at his eyes. And it's because I thought, well, it did happen all in the past. I'd look up, someone or something would tell me what I wanted to hear, but I knew it wasn't Mitchell. And I knew it was the addict. And it almost became like I did not want to look into that person's eyes. And so I wasn't making eye contact with Mitchell. And I remember Mitchell going, Anna, look at me. Look up at me. And he said to me, he said, I'm not the addict. It's me. And I remember crying even more because it was such a full circle thing that the reason why I was feeling all that pain was the addict. But I actually had my husband, I had Mitchell, the person that I was longing for again, actually help me work through the pain. So it was a really interesting thing. But that was a big trigger. I'm going to look up just because I did see a few up here. I think it was right here. Oops. Sorry, guys. This is such a super topic. Good. If you guys have any other topics, just put them in the comments and we'll definitely do them, okay? Work, I'd have anxiety. Lauren, me too. Actually, Lauren, you just made me remember. Sometimes the triggers weren't even from Mitchell. I'd be working at the Disney store, and if my phone went off, if the text message went off, and a few times, I would get so much anxiety, fear, scared, did not want to look at my phone because I knew it was going to be one of the family members saying Mitchell was not at work. So that would terrify me. So there's a lot of different triggers that kind of trigger things. Being at the Disney store and getting a phone call from the actual phone at the Disney store instead of my cell phone from his family. I honest to God thought I was walking up to that phone that they were going to tell me Mitchell was dead. So there's a bunch of triggers that we go through, but like what Mitchell said, that's why I like doing these, because it's not that different. Mitchell talked about if you don't have anyone right there, say the trigger out loud. Take power away from the thought, okay? Then breathe. Breathe in and out. Know that in that situation, you're okay, all right? Then reach out to your support, talk to your support, get yourself out of your own head, and then we'll talk about now, like, what we can do with them. And I'll put in this, is that my triggers now that I have nowadays, they're there still, but they don't freeze me the way that they did in the past. It's more of, hey, Mitchell, can I talk to you for a second? We talk, and then it's off. But that's 3 years and even honestly more than 3 years in the making. So Mitchell, what do you? Oh, go ahead.
I think that get into that logic and reasoning part of your brain, because if you're working on triggers and you're thinking about triggers and you've thought back and you've recognized some triggers, that means that you realize that some situation triggers the behavior or action that you're trying to change. So if you're trying to change something and you have a trigger and it's hard to get out of, the trigger is illogical. The trigger is just trying to trick you. The trigger is just a thought. So I think by playing that tape forward, by being mindful and saying it out loud, taking the power away, getting out of that 15 seconds of the trigger and getting into the logic and reasoning part of your brain, you're going to find it's so much easier to calm yourself down from that trigger, because you're going to realize that I'm not in that situation. That's not who I am. Yes, this has happened a billion times in the past, but now's the present. Mm-hmm. That thought's just a thought, and you do all these tools to get, even if you have to just say, if you have something that's like a mantra almost to get out of that trigger, like, practice saying, like, this is the present, this isn't the past, this is the present, this isn't the past, this is just a thought. If you just have to say a mantra to get out of that and get into that logic and reasoning, because if not, like, that spiral starts happening, I think that's fantastic. It's just all about stopping that go-to learned behavior that happened for so many years.
I was going to say, you just hit on another one when you said that mantra of, like, saying, this isn't the past, this is the present. Because I do admit, giving back and, like, talking to other people and seeing what's going on in their lives and trying to support them, sometimes there's experiences, stories, or choices that are very similar to what I went through. Definitely experiences, and they trigger me back into it again. And Mitchell has to look at me and sometimes go, hey, Anna, that's not us. We're here now. Because if I put myself back in that trigger with other people, I'm not going to be good for myself. I'm not going to be good for him, my daughter, for anybody.
Yeah.
So I need to remember that I can help out, but it's not my trigger anymore, and I can help people work through it.
Yeah, and I think that it morphs as you get further along in recovery. Since me and Anna do our best to help a lot of people that are struggling, a lot of people that are in and out of addiction from some behavior or another, it's easy to fit into that mold again and feel like it's us and we're in there.
Yeah,
super easy. So now our triggers have morphed to more of this is not us. This is not the past. This is not something that we're working through. How do we deal with these feelings and emotions and hold heart boundaries and do this stuff without bringing our own selves into this, so we can be there for our daughter, our parents, each other. Mm-hmm. So it continually works, keep progressively keeps morphing into something else. And that's what someone asked, if we could speak
it's
about complacency, and like that's
Casmera. I hope I said your name right. Casmera.
and that's for sure we can do a video on that, and that's complacency, just how it looks like for me and how it looks like for Anna in her recovery.
Why don't you just say a little bit, just in case if that was like what?
Oh yeah, if I think the easiest way is if I fall into my automated response. If I fall into my subconscious routine, right? If I'm not looking at the things I'm doing, if I'm not challenging my behaviors, if Anna says, "Oh, you're being a little bit snippy," and I don't ever look at it, if I don't
hold accountability.
if I'm not accountable, if I start breaking engagements that I have, like if I start not following through with things and I'm just sitting there and I'm doing the same thing after day, and I go through spells of that.
I do too.
You know what I mean? But they're short. And sometimes it's not even complacency. Sometimes it's just, I'm tired and I'm taking a couple days for myself. And Anna will be like, you deserve that. And I'm like, and then eventually I'm like, you're right. I get to just hang out and chill for a little bit.
Yeah.
But we all go through the ebbs and flows of complacency and like being a go-getter.
Yep. Yes, and Casmira, because I see it now, could you have complacency be a topic one time? Absolutely. We'll talk way more in depth with that, because I already know that last year, the reason why I was so stressed out and feeling depressed was because I was getting complacent. Triggers are very real for the codependent person, but they seem to be minimized by the addict. They are, and the reason why is you have to remember the addict's numb. We're there. So we feel it all. And usually when triggers happen, the addict is using. And so it's extremely hard, because that's a lot of the times I think why we don't feel heard or seen or loved, is because even if we talk about our triggers, nothing really comes from it if we're talking to the addict. So that's why please get a support system, because reaching out to another person that understands about what you're going through. I know it's not from your loved one that you really want to hear from the addict. However, hearing from another person and knowing you're not alone really does help out. Is a big part of my journey.
Yeah, and it takes empathy to realize and put yourself in someone's shoes to actually recognize somebody else's trigger.
Yeah.
And addicts don't have empathy. We have to be selfish for our addiction.
I like that a lot of people understood what she said. My sister-in-law, husband's sister, and I are super close, and we've had some heart-to-hearts about my husband and his alcoholism, and I've shared with her when I'm triggered, and she has helped me work through those when she's been with both of us. That's awesome. But I've also had to explain I get triggered by things that don't make sense to anyone else because of what I was living with. Yep. And the things that I knew were proof of his drinking or signs. He had been drinking, and that's not someone every can understand. Very true. But she's been very helpful, talking to me through, helping me realize I'm just overacting a little. I'm thankful to have her to help me deal with it at times and be understanding. That's awesome. I'm glad that you have someone that's a good support. My sister-in-law, Jill, was also another really good support for me. Andrea, she always helped me when I spoke to her, and we worked through different things to find, because that's the thing we need to recognize is this is something that we can do that helps us with triggers. When we realize what our trigger is, we have to realize the majority of the time it's outside of our control. So we have to do things that are inside of our control. And it's like Mitchell was talking about, breathing, calling your support, writing it down, doing these different things to help you. Go for a walk, take a cold shower, take a bath, go play with your kids, go get a massage, just do something for you. Go listen to music. Get out of your head so that you don't have to think about that trigger.
Yeah, and I think that, people aren't necessarily going to understand your triggers.
No.
And I think if someone doesn't, but they really want to, and they are good support for you, and they just don't understand, my go-to is try to relate it to something that's understandable. Mm-hmm. Everybody can relate to something. So you can relate it to, and everybody has behaviors they work on. Hey, when you go down this street and you smell that bakery, what do you want? A donut. Mm-hmm. Okay, that's a trigger to that. You're going down the street. Could you imagine if you drive by that street, you don't even go by the donut shop, but you still are like, I know the bakery's down there. Like those subtle things are what lead your brain down certain things. And, try to relate it to somebody. And they might
Yeah.
be like, oh, they could have an aha moment. You know what I mean? But, you know, just because they don't understand doesn't mean that they don't want to be there for you. But they might not understand, and you might need to talk to another support.
You just landed on another thing. We have to remember it's not that people don't want to help us or support us. Sometimes they don't have the knowledge in which we've had, and the reason why is because they haven't gone through that experience. So they still want to love us and they still care about us. They just don't have that knowledge that we have. And that's why it's so good to have a support system, because they will understand what you're going through. And we got to remember too, when we start to talk to people that may not be the support that we need, but they're not bad people, okay, just not the support that we need at that time, all that really does sometimes is continue the negative self-talk we have in our head. So I'm sure a lot of people can relate to this, because I know I've done it multiple times in the addiction, even still now. Why am I thinking this way? It's stupid. Mm-hmm. What's wrong with me? Why can't I learn? What's going on? Why am I doing this? And when we talk to somebody that does not understand what we're going through, it does become like, why are you doing that? What is going on? You should be doing this instead. But in our head, it just hurts so much more. But then all of a sudden you go to a support system that really does understand. Then it becomes, Anna, I know why just a door is not just a door. There's so much more to it. It's wondering if the whole night is going to be ruined. It's if you're going to find Mitchell outside high or drunk. It's going to be if you're going to have a really uncomfortable question. It's going to be if you walk up to him, is he going to lie to you or is he going to be angry? So there's so much more than it just being a door shutting, okay? And that's what a support system can do. And Mitchell and I always say this on here. If you guys need a support system, reach out to us. You can reach out to us privately. You can even go on our personal pages and reach out to us. There's a Monday meeting. I can give you our emails, like whatever you need, okay? And Mitchell and I have been thinking about going on other different social platforms, because there's been a lot of people asking us, do we do anything else besides Facebook? And so Mitchell and I were thinking about expanding that, just so we're like,
Be like the cool kids.
Be like the cool kids.
Get with the times.
Yeah, get with the times. Because Mitchell and I actually do have a YouTube page set up, but we have no videos because I didn't know how to do it.
We couldn't transform.
And then a lot of people have told us about Instagram and all that stuff. So we'll probably be doing it soon. We'll try to be cool like everybody else. But, you know.
We are cool.
Yeah.
We are recovery. I think though, just before you get on, I you know, even how you were talking about that, you know, find a support network. I was just thinking about, you know, relate it to something. If you're having a hard time thinking, well, why doesn't this person understand? Relate it to, you know, say you're in third grade, you're starting to learn your multiplication, right? You're not going to go to the first graders and talk to someone who's just learned addition and subtraction. Talk to them about multiplication and division. Mm-hmm. They're going to say, what are you talking about? That's dumb. And you're going to say, that is dumb. Like, I don't get it. They don't get it. But it's just not the same knowledge.
Yeah.
Right? It's not the same knowledge. So simplify things if you're trying to think of things. And then find someone who's also, you know, go talk to a fourth grader that has done multiplication. And they're going to say, oh, man, I had that same problem. Mm-hmm. Here, try to do this, A, B, and C. And then you're like, okay, cool. Like, and that's what a tutor is. You know what I mean? This is a support network. It's you're not going to go to someone who doesn't understand, who hasn't been through the battle. You're going to go to someone who has, and maybe has overcame. That's just what all the motivational speakers are. All the people that are those success stories came from the trauma and the hurt and the pain, because they've gone through it and now they've survived and overcame. And that's why people look up to them. It's not, we're not going to someone who's backtracking and in it to get our answers.
No. I was going to say too, is someone was asking the other day, like how long triggers last. I'll let you know that
like when they happen, or like
if they still happen. Like someone asked the other day, do you still have
memory.
them? And I said yes. And the one person told me one time is the reason why we continue to have triggers is because our mind is trying to protect us. We remember how hurt we were for quite some time. So what our triggers do is basically go, wait a minute, let's look at the situation, let's figure out what's going on, and then let's move forward. So I hope this helped tonight, guys. Is definitely to work through triggers is first you have to identify them, okay? You have to create awareness in them. That means sitting down and becoming mindful of your body. What does anxiety look like for you? When you're sad, where you're angry, you're hurting, take a pause, then ask yourself what caused it. It can be something that we never would think of, but it really could be a door shutting, someone get up and leaving, hearing a text message sound, okay? There's so much that can trigger. Write that down. And then when you realize that your coping mechanism is having anxiety or confronting your loved one that's in addiction, do something different that's going to be a healthy coping skill, okay? Because the truth is if you get triggered, then you go up to your addict that's an active addiction and you ask them, are you drinking? And they look back at you, and chances are they're going to lie to you. That's not going to do anything for you. Even if they look at you and they tell you the truth, there's nothing you can change in that moment in time. It's just going to lead you down more in the insanity. So instead of even doing that, notice what your trigger is. And instead of going up to the addict now, go, I'm going to call my support network. Exit the room, take some breathing, call your support system, get out of your own head. That's a great coping skill, okay? Work through it. So write these things down so you actually really see them, because I know sometimes when we still just think about them in our head, they don't really get there. Write them down. I'm telling you, that is such an amazing skill and tool. I know it works like good for me. I have ADHD. Writing down things really, really helps. So write it down on a piece of paper, okay? Write your triggers out, see what happens, and then put a good coping skill in there. Go for a walk, take a shower, reach out to a support system, go play with your animals, go play with your kids, do something different, okay? Yep. That's going to help you.
And Nicole, this will be up as soon as we publish it. You can watch the whole thing again. So.
Yep, and we're going to get off. Want to go off now, or do you guys want to say something else?
Yeah, no, I just, I agree with Anna. Like, identify the behavior you don't even like first, and then what are the triggers that lead up to that, and then once you start getting it, you can use triggers for good too. Triggers are great to trigger you to, eat healthier eating habits, or better bedtimes, or working out, or spending more time with your kid, or getting off your phone. You can use these triggers. Like, this is such a great topic. Triggers. I mean, they are the precursor to everything we do in life. So we can make them good. We can identify the bad. We can identify the stuff to keep away from. How it keeps us safe. Which ones we don't need, and create our own magical world, happy place that we deserve.
Yep. Just remember, you're more powerful than your triggers. Okay. Remember, a lot of times they're thoughts, and always reach out to your support. Because I said that earlier, and I wanted to change my speech there, is we, just go do something else so you don't have to think about the trigger. But please, always make sure that after you have a trigger, reach out to somebody, talk to somebody, okay? Because what happens is I think it really falls back into that not healthy coping skill that we believe we can do it ourselves, and then here comes a monster trigger later on the road. We think we can handle it ourselves, and something happens. So just, even if it's a simple text to a support system, hey, I don't even need an answer back, I just wanted to let you know I had a trigger tonight, okay? So just make sure you always get out of your own head, okay, guys? We definitely need a support system to work through this. None of us, it doesn't matter what side we're on the same coin, none of us can do this alone. We have to do this together. That is why this site is, like Mitchell was joking about, but that is why it's called We Are Recovery.
Cool.
We are cool. We are recovery, because we really do have to do it together, okay? So I hope you guys have a fantastic night. Thanks for joining us tonight.
Love you.
All right. Bye, guys.
Bye.